This is a quick and easy crash course on the history of China. The wind howled across the plains of ancient China, where an enigma was buried deep beneath the earth, bones from a world long forgotten. Over 1 million years ago, creatures unlike any others roamed this land. Among them was Peking man, figure as old as mystery itself, discovered centuries later and still holding the secrets of a time when fire had barely touched the hands of man.
Peking man is one of the earliest signs of human activity in East Asia, dating back roughly 700,000 years.
The Paleolithic dawned in China, a silent era of survival, as primitive beings began their long climb from instinct to thought. Millennia passed, and the shadows shifted into something new.
Stone tools found with Peking man hint at the slow evolution of human ingenuity.
By the Neolithic age, a spark of civilization had ignited. Along riverbanks and valleys, people began to carve their homes into the land. Pottery turned in their hands as they mastered agriculture and domesticated animals. The Yangshao and Longshan cultures flourished. Vessels of clay, intricate yet humble, were their silent storytellers.
These early societies paved the way for China's later cultural and agricultural development.
Settlements rose, not yet cities, but whispers of what was to come. Then came Yu the Great, a figure wrapped in myth. The floodwaters of the Yellow River raged, threatening all, until Yu appeared. Through sheer will and divine favor, he bent the waters to his command.
They say Yu was so dedicated to controlling the floods that he passed by his home without stopping for years.
And so the Xinhai Dynasty was born, though its true existence teeters between fact and fable. But what is known, from both history and legend, is that it marked the beginning of order in chaos. The Shang dynasty followed, firm and real, its capital rising at Anyang. Warriors grasped bronze in their hands, while priests etched fortunes on these oracle bones, seeking the future through cracks and shadows. Here, writing emerged, a tangible bridge to an uncertain past. The Shang reigned, but only until the Zhou arrived. The Zhou's rise was swift, bolstered by their claim to the mandate of heaven. In 1046 BCE, the Zhou rulers invoked the mandate of heaven, justifying their rule as the will of the gods. The Western Zhou prospered, establishing a feudal system that bound lords to the emperor. Yet, as the Eastern Zhou dawned, power slipped through the emperor's grasp like sand.
Confucius lived through this era of weakening central power, inspiring his teachings on social order.
The spring and autumn period saw the rise of lords and the fall of central control, while philosophers like Confucius roamed, their words shaping the very fabric of thought. Then the world grew darker. The Warring States period brought chaos to the Zhou's fractured rule. Battles raged across the land, every state hungry for dominance. Even in warfare, the quest for knowledge thrived. New philosophies like legalism emerged alongside the bloodshed. But in the depths of this turmoil, new ideas emerged. Confucianism, Taoism, and legalism each vied for a place in the heart of China's destiny, as warlords carved out their ambitions, setting the stage for what was to come. Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor, emerged from the flames of war, uniting China in 221 BCE. His reign was one of iron control. No voice rose above his, no action defied him. Across the empire, he ordered the standardization of weights, measures, and writing, shaping the nation in his image.
This was the first time China's vast regions shared a common script, a critical factor in its long-term unity.
The Great Wall's first stones were laid, each block a symbol of his might. Beneath the earth, his terracotta army stood ready, lifelike soldiers meant to guard him in death. But Qin Shi Huang's rule, though grand, was short-lived. His unrelenting tyranny sowed rebellion, and after his death, the empire crumbled. his dream of eternal rule shattered. In the wake of this collapse, the Han Dynasty rose from the ashes. Emperor Gaozu, a peasant-turned-ruler, founded the Western Han in 206 BCE. Under the Han, Confucianism flourished as the state philosophy, tempering the harshness of Qin's legacy with the wisdom of balance and virtue. The empire grew beyond its borders as the Silk Road opened, connecting China with distant lands, bringing wealth and foreign wonders.
The Silk Road wasn't just about trade, it brought with it new ideas, technologies, and even Buddhism to China.
But even as the Han basked in the glow of expansion, darkness loomed. By the time the Eastern Han emerged in 25 CE, internal decay had already set in, corruption poisoned the courts, and the Yellow Turban Rebellion, an uprising of peasants, rose like a storm, shaking the very foundations of the empire. The Han limped towards its end, torn apart by internal strife and rebellion. The empire fractured once more, splintering into the three kingdoms, Wei, Shu, and Wu. It was an era of warlords, cunning strategists, and endless battlefields. The land was divided, but legends were born. Tales of bravery, betrayal, and ambition filled the air, immortalized in the romance of the three kingdoms. But in reality, it was a time of bloodshed and chaos, where alliances shifted like the wind, and death followed on the heels of power.
Though romanticized, the real period was a brutal power struggle where millions perished.
Briefly, the Jin dynasty restored unity in 265 CE, but peace was fleeting as internal struggles tore them apart, leaving the door open for nomadic tribes to descend upon the empire. China fell into further disarray, split between the north and the south, ushering in the era of the 16 kingdoms. Nomadic invasions during this time reshaped China's borders and introduced new cultural influences. Even as the Eastern Jin tried to hold on in the south, the land was fractured once again. The dream of a unified China seemed distant, buried beneath the weight of ambition, rebellion, and conquest. China, once whole, had shattered into two worlds by 420 CE, the north and the south, each a mirror reflecting the other's chaos. In the north, warlords vied for control, and nomadic invasions swept through like a storm. But in the south, something remarkable was happening. The cities thrived, becoming sanctuaries of culture. Poetry bloomed and philosophy deepened, while Buddhism, once foreign, took root in the hearts of the people.
The southern dynasties became renowned for their intellectual and artistic advancements during this turbulent time.
Temples rose and monks traversed the land, their teachings spreading from one village to the next, offering a sense of peace amidst the division. Yet the longing for unity was always present. It was the Sui dynasty in 581 CE that answered the call. Emperor Wen, with swift precision, reunited China after centuries of fragmentation. His vision was grand, a nation brought together by one of the most ambitious projects in history, the Grand Canal. This vast waterway connected the north and south, a lifeline for trade and communication. The Grand Canal, still in use today, was a remarkable feat of engineering and central to China's economic growth. But his ambition became his undoing. The Sui Empire crumbled under the weight of high taxes and military failures. In just 37 years, the dynasty fell, but its impact was undeniable. The foundation for something far greater had been laid. Then, the Tang Dynasty rose in 618 CE, and with it, a golden age. Emperor Taizong ruled over a land where culture and art reached heights never before seen. The empire's influence spread far and wide, reaching as far as Central Asia, Korea, and Japan.
Taizong's reign is often viewed as the height of Chinese cosmopolitanism, with open trade routes and flourishing diplomacy.
Buddhism flourished, its temples humming with life, as the Silk Road bustled with merchants, scholars, and explorers. It was a time of elegance. Calligraphy, painting, and poetry became the heartbeats of the empire. But no golden age lasts forever. In 755 CE, the An-Lushan Rebellion tore through the empire, nearly ending it all. Internal strife and military defeats followed, and the Tang slowly weakened, its glory fading into memory. The rebellion cost the empire over a decade of war and the loss of millions of lives. By 907 CE, the empire collapsed into fragments once again. The 5 dynasties ruled the north in quick succession, each dynasty as short-lived as the one before. In the south, the 10 kingdoms sprouted, each vying for control, each with its own story. China had splintered once more, and though the Tang's golden age had ended, the memory of its brilliance lingered, a reminder of what had been and what could be again. The year was 960 CE, and China stood on the brink of collapse, its lands fragmented after the chaos of the 5 dynasties. Yet, from this turmoil emerged a visionary, Zhao Guangyin, a military general who, with a brilliant stroke of ambition, seized power and established the Song Dynasty. Under his reign, the northern Song flourished. It was an era of cultural brilliance and technological marvels. Gunpowder crackled in the alchemists' workshops. The compass guided sailors across uncharted seas, and printing presses rolled out books that spread knowledge like wildfire.
Zhao Guangyin's establishment of the Song Dynasty marked a shift from military dominance to intellectual and cultural innovation.
Yet it was not military might that defined this period, but wisdom, art, and invention. But while the Song prospered, a shadow was growing in the north. The Jurchen tribes, fierce and hungry for conquest, broke through the Song defences in 1127 CE, forcing the imperial court to retreat south. The southern Song rose in their place, and though reduced in size, it thrived. Its economy surged as maritime trade flourished, ships sailing far and wide, linking China with distant lands. Southern Song ceramics and paintings are still considered some of the finest examples of Chinese artistry. Yet, even as the dynasty's coffers swelled, the threat of invasion loomed. The Mongols, under the leadership of Kublai Khan, finally brought the southern Song to its knees in 1279 CE, ending the dynasty's proud reign. With the fall of the Song, China entered a new era under foreign rule. The Yuan dynasty, established in 1271 by Kublai Khan, grandson of the legendary Genghis Khan. It was the first time in history that all of China was ruled by a foreign power.
Kublai Khan's unification of China under the Yuan was an unprecedented moment of foreign governance.
Kublai's empire was vast, stretching from the Pacific to the edges of Europe. Under the Pax Mongolica, trade flourished across Eurasia, and even Marco Polo, the famed Venetian explorer, marvelled at the grandeur of Khan's court. Yet the Mongol rulers struggled to connect with the Han Chinese people. Natural disasters, rebellions, and resentment against foreign rule sowed the seeds of their downfall, and in 1368 CE, the Yuan dynasty crumbled. Marco Polo's writings gave the West its first glimpse of Mongol-ruled China, though with a touch of exaggeration. Out of the ashes of the Mongol Empire, a new leader rose, Zhu Yuanzhang, a peasant-turned-rebel leader who reclaimed China for the Han people. He founded the Ming Dynasty, one of the most prosperous and well-known periods in Chinese history. Massive walls were erected to guard against northern invaders. The Great Wall took its iconic form, and the Forbidden City rose as the seat of imperial power.
The Ming era is remembered for its emphasis on defense, trade, and grand architectural achievements like the Forbidden City.
Ming China was also a seafaring nation, as Zheng He led magnificent fleets on expeditions across the Indian Ocean, expanding trade and Chinese influence from Africa to Southeast Asia. But like so many before it, the Ming Dynasty succumbed to internal decay. Corruption gnawed at the foundations of the state, and as peasant uprisings surged, the northern Manchu tribes saw their chance. In 1644 CE, the Ming fell, and the Qing dynasty was born. Zheng He's expeditions stand as the largest naval voyages the world had ever seen until that point. The Qing rulers, though outsiders, controlled China with efficiency. Under their reign, the empire reached its greatest territorial expanse. But they too faced grave challenges. The Opium Wars with Western powers in the mid-19th century shattered Qing control, forcing them into humiliating treaties that ceded territory and opened China to foreign influence. Internally, the Taiping Rebellion ravaged the nation, killing millions, and the Boxer Rebellion further weakened Qing authority. By 1912, the empire's time was over. The Xinhai Revolution swept away the last vestiges of imperial rule, and China embarked on a new, uncertain path as a republic. The collapse of the Qing dynasty in 1912 brought an end to over 2,000 years of imperial rule in China, giving rise to the Republic of China. It was a time of idealism led by the revolutionary Sun Yat-sen. But the new republic soon faced chaos. Warlords carved the nation into fiefdoms, and internal strife erupted between the nationalists, led by Chiang Kai-shek, and the rising communist movement.
The early republic struggled with factionalism and warlordism, making central governance nearly impossible.
The situation grew even bleaker when Japan invaded in 1937, turning China into a battlefield during World War II. The invasion left a scar across the country, but the deeper wound came after the war, when civil conflict between the nationalists and communists resumed. In 1949, after years of struggle, Mao Zedong emerged victorious, founding the People's Republic of China. Japanese occupation left China in ruins, but it also fueled nationalist and communist resistance. Under Mao's rule, China embarked on a series of sweeping reforms, political, social, and economic. The Great Leap Forward was intended to rapidly industrialize the country, but instead led to widespread famine and millions of deaths. The Cultural Revolution followed, plunging China into chaos once again, as old traditions and institutions were uprooted, and society was torn apart by ideological zealotry.
The Great Leap Forward is still regarded as one of the most disastrous social experiments in modern history.
Yet, with Mao's death in 1976 came a shift. Deng Xiaoping, rising to power, steered China away from radicalism and toward pragmatism. He opened the country to the world, launching reforms that transformed China's economy into a powerhouse. Factories sprang up, cities sprawled, and China began its ascent on the global stage. By the 21st century, the country had become a superpower, shaping world trade and geopolitics.
Deng's reforms are credited with lifting hundreds of millions out of poverty.
But China's path was not without its challenges. The Tiananmen Square protests in 1989 revealed deep fractures within its society, but the nation marched forward. Today, China stands as a dominant force in the world, its influence felt across every continent, as it continues to shape the course of the future. If you enjoyed this content, you may like this playlist on the fascinating history of varied countries.